Hey, what's up? Liat Siegel, Shmuel Siegel from Hadar Interiors, Inc. We're here to help you guys. We're here to talk about our new series that I've been introducing over the last week, and I'm
Super exciting.
Yeah, very exciting to talk to you guys a little bit about what we do, behind the scenes look. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. So we're here to not just show you beautiful pictures and create beautiful things, but also...
Although we like beautiful pictures and beautiful things.
True. But we're here to, give you guys some insight into what we look at and how, we're trained in design to see things and hand that information and that, help train your mind so that when you're looking at things and you're putting a design plan together, that you'd be able to... execute properly, guide your team, and have the best possible results. I see that we have low internet connection. Okay, good, it's back. Hopefully we're all live now. Do you want to introduce, while people are hopping on, do you want to talk a little bit about what we've been talking about before with Design and Profitability TV, Season 1 commercial, and now what we're going to talk about going forward, just an overview?
The first season of Design for Profitability TV, we covered a lot of the some of the core design principles.
A lot of commercial.
Right. It was much more focused towards a commercial audience, hospitality specifically. Mm-hmm. A lot of general concepts. But I think I'm really excited towards this new season where we're going to discuss a lot of things that are really going to be a much more versatile set of information.
Yep.
That can be used from anything from commercial to residential. And the reason is because what we're going to be focusing on are really useful tips and really useful information that can be used for the planning and the strategy behind the work that you're going to do, which really applies across the board.
Right.
I'm excited for this, for our new season, the 1,000-foot view. Hello.
Hey.
The 1,000-foot view, and I'd love if you can really expound a little bit on the meaning of why we called it the 1,000-foot view. It's really, really awesome because we're going to be covering some of the most important elements in managing yourself and your project, or managing your expectations, most importantly.
Right.
And really empowering you and arming you with the knowledge and tools towards the performance and execution of your project. So that you can really make sure that you hire the right people to work with you and that you understand the process and that you can achieve those really awesome results that we all really want, right?
Because at the beginning and end and middle of the day, you're hiring a team or you're doing a renovation because there's a pain point, whether it's your space is dysfunctional or it just doesn't feel good. You walk into rooms and you just don't know why you don't like the space, whatever the reason is, or you have an outdated kitchen or bathroom. You don't want to embark on a journey of hiring a team or going through a renovation that's going to cause you more pain and be more frustrating. So, we're not saying that the information that we're providing is something that you should go and DIY yourself. I mean, it's cool if you want to, but this will again, knowledge is power, and this will equip you with the proper information to set proper expectations for yourself, for your team, and make the renovation process or updating process, commercial or residential, make it easier and more enjoyable so that you get better results at the end. So...
Well, can you tell? I think you touch on a really important point, right? Why would or wouldn't someone choose to go with a designer? I mean, why would is there any benefit or way to know where something should be DIY'd, or are we saying that DIY is something that we really don't recommend, but we recognize people are doing? What's your take on that?
It's a little bit of everything, really, and the answer is, like anything, it depends. It depends on who you are, what your personality is. It depends on your budget. I think budget is a huge one, right? We have people coming to us all the time and saying that they, want to do certain renovations and they only have X amount of dollars, and we say, at least have the right set of expectations. Don't expect, $1 million space for $20,000. So, again, with this information, it'll help set proper expectations so that you understand, who's the right team to hire, where to go. If you don't hire a designer, where to go and what to do in order to get the right information so that you can create the best possible results.
And I see here the comment that professionals help remove stress. Absolutely. Right. Stress is a big element when it comes to starting a new project, especially if it's something you're not familiar with. So,
and there's a lot of moving parts, which is stressful.
There are a lot of moving parts and just a lot of, walking in the dark. So having someone who knows the process, knows the execution and what should be done when, it's super, super, super helpful. But that's part of what we are here for. We really want to arm you with this information to make it less stressful. So even if you do want to DIY, if that's what you need to for whatever reason, at least you know what you're getting yourself into, and you have some strategy behind it, and you're not just flying by the seat of your pants. You're not going in blind, right? Because the worst thing you can do, whether you're a client or DIYing it, you do not want to be flying in blind.
You need to have a plan. No matter what, you need to have a plan. I think that's the core message that that's important for us to convey. If there's one thing that you take away from everything that we share in season 2, is to have a plan and make sure that it's planned out properly. Let's dive into the 1,000-foot view and give them an overview of what we're going to be talking about in this upcoming series.
So what is a 1,000-foot view? I mean, I've heard of a bird's eye view. I've heard of kind of like a lot of different views. Working in design, I have I have all these different views that we work on when we look at the schematics and all those things. Yeah. What's a 1,000-foot view? I don't think I've heard that one before.
So we've got the 30,000-foot view, which is when you're flying in an airplane and you're looking down and you're seeing an overview of everything. And then you've got the helicopter view when you're at 1,000 feet, 500 to 1,000 feet, and you're seeing things in more clarity. So it's an overview, but yet giving you enough information that you can see clearly and properly put a plan into place for your renovation.
Got it. So for instance, if I'm flying in an airplane, right, so I'd be able to see the land below me, but I'd not be able to see buildings or any details. So this is kind of like the overall project view, just knowing, this is the beginning, this is the end, and, just having a good idea of what the project is. But if you really want to understand the details of the project, you got to lower it down and zoom in a little bit and see, see some more features and details. It doesn't mean you're going to have a detailed understanding, because that's what, that's what you have the professional for.
And that's what you go to school for, and you go training, and you have
but
years
you don't
of
need to know the details. Right? When we create, we create a project flow for our clients, right? We don't present them with every nitty-gritty detail. They don't need to know that. What they need to see is the flow, when they can expect things to be done, and something called dependencies, right? What are dependencies?
Super important. Dependencies are making sure that certain things get done before others. So you can't, put in the flooring before you finish the floor, before you rip up the old floor, before you put the underlayment, and you need to make sure that there's steps that happen before the other ones. So it's properly
in a sense, like,
everything.
Right, because like you can install the lighting, right? You can put in beautiful chandeliers and mood lights and put all these different, lighting features in your space and the cabinetry, etc. But if you didn't set up the electricity first, you're gonna have a problem, right? No, don't do that. You first have to set up the electric, and in order to set up the electrics, right, you ideally would want the walls to do it while the walls are open if you're building a new construction, or if you're making some major, some major renovations, right? So so the dependencies really basically mean you can do some things a certain way.
You just might have to go back and rip it up again.
And it's going to cost you like 10 times as much at least,
don't
right?
do that.
Don't do that, right? So dependencies, a project flow, those are tools that we create for our clients to help them understand. But those are also something that requires some common sense and an understanding of what you're getting into.
Training your eye,
knowing the process of a project, right? If you understand that, when the walls are open, that's a time to put in a lot of the work, before they close it back up. So, understand what goes into it, what needs to come in first. There's a reason why, there's professionals that come in, before the professionals. It's, what's that? Coordination of workers. Absolutely,
of
right?
Everybody.
And it's really like a symphony, right? You can have a lot of instruments playing, but if it's not in a proper flow, it's just going to sound like a bunch of, toddlers making noise. Right?
That's music also.
It's music, but you can only handle so much of it.
True. We've got 5 of them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not toddlers, but children that like
children.
making lots of noise.
Yeah, which has its own beauty, but not when you're having a construction project. There's nothing beautiful about that.
No. So number 1 of the 1,000-foot view is that, the 9 core design principles of great design. One of the things that we talked a lot about in season 1 was strategic interior design. So our 9 core design principles, which you're welcome to grab the download of, is in the message somewhere up below, sideways, somewhere. It's hadarinteriors.com/feelgood. It's somewhere. And you can go ahead and download either a residential or commercial guide that will give you those core design principles. And we'll talk a little bit more about it as we go. Do you want to introduce number 2 on the 1,000-foot view?
All right, this is one of my favorites. I just learned that term recently, the 5...
From our project manager.
Project manager, the 5 Ps, right? The 5 Ps are super, super, super important. And it's really a sentence that goes as follows, right? Proper planning prevents poor performance.
Yeah.
Right? This is really the bottom line of everything we do.
Up.
Yeah, exactly. Because, as the name says it all, right? You really do not want to go into something without knowing what you're getting into, right? And there's a famous Jewish saying that goes as follows in Hebrew, and I'll translate. It goes, Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila, which really means the results of your actions really depend on the initial thought that you put into it, right? So you really want to make sure, because whatever it is you picture in your mind, that's what it's going to look like at the end, right? So if you haven't, really internalized and thought about what kind of results you want, your performance is just not going to quite cut it. You really need to know what it is you want, to understand, think of the details, even though it's not fun. You just want to have like this, quick, Instagrammable or Pinterest kind of like mansion, and you're just like, okay, I like this picture. Let's go, right? But there's lighting that's involved, daylight, natural daylight to internal lighting to the type of windows, the trims, the structural, so many details that go into plumbing, all kind of different details that could go into the carpentry work. And if you don't really take the time to plan it out and to think it through before you execute, you're going to run into walls. And that not only applies literally, right? That doesn't only apply to you as an individual, right? It applies to you as a professional. So if you hire a professional, all too often we hear about people hiring, designers or decorators or other professionals, and they're like, I don't understand what they did. They just right away took me shopping, and we right away went, and it was fun, but like, I didn't get the results I was hoping for, and a lot of mistakes happen, and we end up wasting a lot of money. And they start thinking...
Caveat, mistakes always happen.
Mistakes always happen, but our goal, right? Our goal is to manage and try to reduce the number of mistakes that can happen.
Correct.
It doesn't matter, we're all human, and it doesn't matter how much you plan, mistakes will happen because there's just certain things you can't plan for.
Absolutely.
Right? And some of them are totally out of control.
Like you said, it's all about managing,
exactly. Because if you plan it properly, right, you'll prevent poor performance.
Right.
Doesn't mean that you're not going to have any mistakes. It just means that your results will be that much better, and
right. And everybody will be calmer throughout the whole process.
Exactly, because the thing you definitely don't want to incur is high stress coming from any direction, because stress yields poor performance. It just makes people act, in ways that
crazy.
Totally crazy, right? And it just doesn't benefit you. So I think that really sums up, that idea that you really want to make sure that both you and the professional you're working with have a clear plan.
You stick to it.
And you stick to it, right?
Because there's going to be things like, we have change orders all the time. People will say, we've gone through the design planning process and we found another element or feature that we didn't think of before that we want to now put into the project scope. And, and that happens and that's totally normal. But it affects the timeline and affects everything. But, when you stick to the plan, we got a call. When you stick to the plan and you stick to, the project scope as best as possible and organize things and adjust the project schedule accordingly, then you'll, continue to reduce stress and keep stress maintained. And what's that? Absolutely, a trained professional shows all these steps. Need to have someone keeping up with your project. Absolutely. Having multiple people keeping on top of your project, having a project manager like we do,
or the way developers do, right? They have a builder's rep, right? What's called the representative of the person who's in charge.
Owner's rep.
The owner's rep. That's one, right? Thank you. An owner's rep who's basically a high level project manager. There's project management happening in multiple levels and projects depending on the size and scope of the project.
And everybody's coordinating.
Yeah,
like a symphony, like you said before.
Ideally, at least that's how it should go. Not all professionals have it worked into their project, so it is important. When you're hiring a contractor, when you're hiring an architect, when you're hiring a designer, it's in your best interest to make sure that everyone is communicating, that they're working together, collaborative, because collaborative work. That's part of the proper planning. You want to make sure that everyone is planning together because all those trades they overlap and there's a lot of important communication that needs to be happening.
Like we're upgrading our software to a program called Revit. Because we use AutoCAD right now and it's been working amazing, but Revit is a collaborative tool.
Revit is not only collaborative; it's also it's the cutting edge now in collaboration because it allows us to create better designs, allows us to create very quick renders,
coordinate
3D,
with the electrician, the plumber,
exactly, and get very quick estimates. Revit is really, really awesome. What's that? My last project started with, $50. Yep.
That's right.
That and part of proper planning and setting proper expectations would be to prevent having a project balloon, because it does happen. Projects will balloon.
Right.
People, especially when there are change orders, the more change orders or
the more details that go into a project.
Or if people don't expect this, right? You think a new build would be more expensive than renovation, but a lot of time a renovation means you're dealing with a lot of old problems and existing structures, so you have a lot less to work with.
Right.
So that can end up costing a lot more. So planning it out properly, making sure you get the right professionals in on, from the get-go. Don't wait to get the designer in when the project is already flying. You want to make sure you get the designer, you get the architect, you got the contractor all speaking before you even set foot in the space, because that's exactly all problems exactly, because that's what people run into all the time. They think, I'm just going to fix up this those few things and put in some new electric wiring or something, and it should be real simple, but there's so much that when you open up those walls, there's so many things that surprises could be hiding there. I had a friend who found someone at one point, a previous tenant, had set up an extension cord as a replacement for actual wiring in the building, right? Like an actual extension cord, right? They didn't properly wire it, and it's a tremendous fire hazard. That's dangerous for anyone living in the house. Yeah. And thank goodness they found it, because we don't even want to go there, right? So it's important that you understand, set the expectations, understand that.
There's a plan, and take your time.
There's a plan.
Please take your time.
Speak to your professionals about what can I expect if if something comes up. What can we try to prevent? How can I help make this project move further faster?
Right.
And how can we communicate? Set up times for communication. So
Consistent, yeah.
Yeah. Plan
like
out
recurring meetings to talk about where you're at and how you're moving forward. That's something that we bake into all of our projects.
We don't want you up at night,
meetings.
right?
Yeah.
We don't want you up at night wondering, where the project is at. We want you to know what's happening, what are the next steps, and the more informed you are, the more relaxed you can be, and the better we can work together.
Yeah. We've got two more. Should I go with the next one?
Absolutely.
The pyramid. So the pyramid is quite widely known as time, quality, or budget. You can only pick two. So, something that you discussed with me right before we hopped on was trying to get you as close to all three as possible.
Was that, can clients consult us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can get in touch whenever you want.
So in terms of the pyramid, it's really, really important because people, everybody wants all three, right? Nobody wants to be paying, crazy amounts. Nobody wants for the project to take, years and years. And nobody wants, for the quality to be shoddy, especially if you're paying a premium, right? You want to make sure that what you're getting is going to be beautiful, cost-effective, and timely. Now, the reality is, when working with any kind of business, that while all three are important, we can only really deliver a combination with an emphasis of two of those elements.
Right.
You can't possibly get things done rapidly and high quality and great affordability. That is beyond reason. It's just not realistic. However, there are certain things you can do to mitigate and to make sure that you can get the best of all three
and get as close to all three as possible.
Exactly. And what are those things?
A lot of things.
A lot of things.
I think that, it goes back to, and we're going to dive further into this in future episodes, and they're not going to be quite as long. We're just doing a little bit of a deep dive into what's coming up. But the basis of all of that, and I think this is the foundation of everything in design and in life and in renovations, is to have proper expectations, right? I mean, if we have certain expectations of our children or our spouses or our the people that are working with us, and they're not in line with reality, they're not in line with what the person can handle, what they can do,
you're gonna have problems.
Right. Like our oldest son, I'm sure if you have children, then you've experienced this as well. You always expect more of the oldest because you don't know what to expect. You're, first time parent, and, unless you've had a lot of siblings, or it's always, brand new.
Even then, it's unless you have been the oldest, you don't know what the oldest goes through until you're there.
Exactly.
Right.
And so it's really important to have proper expectations and constantly be working on ourselves, learning about what it is that we're engaging in. If we're spending money on something, then it's important to not just abdicate, but
Delegate.
Delegate.
Mm-hmm.
And not abdicate. Is that the word?
Yeah, abdicate.
Yeah, abdicate.
Right, because the idea is,
right.
just to elaborate on that concept a little bit, is that most people, especially in business, tend to what's called abdicate, right? They tend to come in and they say, okay, I want XYZ done, and go ahead and do it. I don't want to hear about it until you're done, right? It's kind of thing like, this is why I hired you for. Right. I want you to go ahead and just do it. And the reality is, it's the worst way to get anything done, because if you want something done properly, the only person who's going to be 100% invested in your success is going to be you. Right? That's ultimately the case. It doesn't matter how great and professional the person you're hiring is, they have other things to take care of, and they have their most urgent, important things. So if you just abdicate and let them run with it, you're not going to get the result you want. If you really want to get the great results that you're hoping for and you're aiming for, you need to delegate. But delegate doesn't mean micromanage. It's not the same thing. Delegate means you have clear understanding expectations.
Constant communication.
Constant communication, not constant, but in a timely, organized fashion. Right? You don't want to, that's again micromanaging. You don't want to micromanage because that's going to make a person go crazy.
Yeah.
But you do want to manage. You want to make sure that you're communicating, that you're communicated with, and that there's back and forth going on, and that way you really make sure that you're getting the results and you're being your own advocate. You can hire a project manager to do that, and they will do an excellent job, sometimes even better than you can. But again, you'd also have to manage the project manager. So you might be reducing some of that management need because the project manager is trained in this. But you still need to make sure that there's communication. You understand, because ultimately you're the client, and we need to know what's going on in your head. If you don't talk to us, if you don't communicate with us, we don't know what you want, right?
Absolutely. And if you do need a project manager, reach out to Joshua Brewer, Patriaco.
We should definitely tag him.
We'll link him in the comments so that you guys can connect to him if you need a project manager. And so that's the pyramid. And then do you want to finalize with a trusted advisor?
A trusted advisor.
I mean, It sums up everything else that we've talked about, and we don't really need to go into too much detail about that one.
Right.
But it has to be said. It's got to be said.
Is that having
periodic staff or client consults?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. You definitely want to make sure that you're not dealing with a know-it-all. You can't be the know-it-all, or you're...
No one is a know-it-all.
No one is a know-it-all, right? What's the old saying, right? A jack of all trades is a master of none, right?
Right.
You definitely... It's always great to know about what's going on from all trades of the project, but you don't need to be the jack of all trades. You just need to know
and
enough to
neither does the professional that you're working with.
Yes.
A one-man band, is especially for designers, a lot of... That's the image, and that's the thing, that sole entrepreneur, that sole person working on things. We don't operate that way. We used to, but we've built out a team of highly specialized and highly professional tradespeople that work in every different facet of the project, so that everything is highly specialized and that we can get the best results possible.
Because there's a reason why there are professionals in all these really specialized areas, from electricians to plumbers to cabinet, kitchen, people who manufacture kitchens, right? People who manufacture, restrooms. All of those, there's a lot of specialized knowledge and strategy that goes into these ideas that we may be familiar with elements of those. As designers, there's a lot that we can do to really perform on those ends. But if we can bring in an expert, there are things that they see that we just won't. They just do it all the time, and it's what they've been trained in. So that's really, really important. And the same is true with your contractor. You do not want the two guys in a pickup truck kind of construction company coming in,
unless that's what your budget dictates, which is
which
fine
is
as well.
Like going back to the DIY, right?
And managing expectations.
You have to know it's just not going to be the same. If you're looking for high level results. And not timely,
to have to go back and fix the punch, go through the punch list yourself.
Right, and timely matter, good, communication. You want to bring in, especially if you're a professional place, you're doing a renovation or a construction for a big a commercial project. You want to make sure that they have people that they're communicating with. That they have the right tools for the job, right? That they have the right systems that they're working with, and to really make sure that it's not a one-man band. They need to recognize that they don't know it all. Because if someone comes in and they tell you, "Hey, I'm a contractor, but I'm also a designer and I'm an architect,"
run.
Run. You definitely want to run.
Unless they feel like maybe they've gone to school for all of those things, and they're.
But even if they have, you don't. But even if they have, you really don't want. Was that? Exactly.
You get what you pay for.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because even if they do know it all, and even if they are trained in all areas, they shouldn't be working in all areas. Because I could tell you, I mean, my wife here, right, Liat, she spends a lot of time on running the business. But there's only so many hours in the day, and she could only focus on so many things. If she focused on more than the elements of what she is, has become an expert in, right? Run. If she focuses on all these other elements that aren't her top expertise, isn't what she gets paid to do. There are going to be mistakes. She just doesn't have the proper time to and focus and training to really give it the results and the attention that it needs.
Yeah.
So,
which is why we are able and so thankful to have an amazing team from marketers to salespeople to
Construction.
project managers, construction team, and
Architects.
architects and draftspeople. You name it, we've got it.
Yeah, it's so important because you just need to recognize, especially if you're a person who think you know it all. Trust me, there's so much happening. It's constantly changing in the design and construction and architectural world that even if you're someone who was trained in it, you have to be keeping up with all these new changes and updates and trends.
Yep, technology.
You if you think you know it all, you don't. Okay, no offense, but you just don't. Right? Nobody does. We don't. And anybody anyone who claims they do, like we said, run. And I think that really summarizes.
There is
everything.
one more aspect to the trusted advisor is that you just can't be objective on your own project, and it's important to have somebody that can walk you through things, hold your hand through it and help guide you.
Right. It's like that example we said the other day, right? We were telling someone about this exact point, right? If you could be the best surgeon, right, a world-class surgeon, you're not performing your own surgery, and doctors, I believe by policy don't perform surgery or take care of their own friends and family for major things because you can't be objective.
Right.
So if you're going to have your own project, you're going to build your own thing, unless you're DIYing it, which is okay. But if you're going to hire a professional to do a project for you, trust the outside perspective. Ask. Get an advisor if you need to. Someone who could be an advocate to be able to who's not in it, because when you're in it, you can't see clearly. There's a lot of stress. A lot of things are being done all the time in the project.
There's so many decisions.
And nobody wants red flag wallpaper.
Right.
Exactly. And you want to make sure that there's another perspective. And also, you might think that you need something like tomorrow. Like I might need, my kitchen done tomorrow. But having someone who, from an outside perspective, to kind of be like, that's nice that you'd like that, and I definitely appreciate it, and I'll do my best to get there as soon as possible. But if you put it in the kitchen before your walls are done, you have nothing to hang your cabinets on, and that will be a problem, right? So we want to make sure we don't get to those situations. You want to be realistic and understand what's going to be involved, and the more you can have an advocate, someone who can advocate for you, someone, even if the professional ideally can be the advocate for you, who's interested in your results, not just in the bottom line, then you're in good hands, and that you can trust that person and trust the results you're going to get. Yeah,
absolutely, and do it right the first time.
Yeah.
Avoid design mistakes that will cost you more money in the long run.
Or at least do it less wrong.
Yeah, less wrong. Hashtag less wrong.
Exactly.
I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your evening, and we'll catch you guys on episode 2 of 1,000 Foot View.
Bye.